Before we start differentiating inverse functions, let's kind of lay out just some of our algebraic review of inverse functions, because a lot of it is going to be something that we're going to use in finding the derivative of a function's inverse. So we say that a function g is the inverse of, let's say we're given a function f. So g is the inverse of f if whenever let's say y equals some function of x, then x is equal to some other function, in this case of y. And one of the things you'll probably remember from when you were in algebra learning about inverse functions, this idea that the x's and y's will swap, the domains and ranges will swap, the inputs and outputs will swap, however it is you like to think about the variables of a function, but that's what's true about inverse functions. And if we ever want to verify that a function is in fact an inverse of another, this can be verified. This can be verified if x equals g of f of x. And so if you take a look right here, if x is this g of y and y was f of x, then x should equal g of f of x. So I can take f, input it into g, and if the output is x, then it could be an inverse. It also needs to be true that I get x whenever I input g of x into f of x. And this is kind of how you verify that functions were inverses back when you were learning about this idea in algebra. Another property that we have for inverse functions, another property of inverse functions f and g, is that the domain of f is the range of g, and the domain of g is the range of f. And so again, this idea that the x's and y's, domains and range, inputs, outputs, however it is you like to think of it, that those are being swapped. And so if we ever want to find an inverse, and that's what we're going to do in the next video here, if we want to find an inverse function, what we really do, so we can find this inverse function by swapping the x and y variables. And so we end up with this situation where x is now being expressed a function of, as a function of y. And so we can then reorganize it using our algebraic skills by solving for y. And if we do that, then we get the inverse function. And in fact, that's what we'll do in the next video. We'll actually come up with an inverse by swapping our variables and solving for y. And then we'll verify that they are inverses by using this idea right here, that if I input one into its inverse, I get x. And if I put the other function into its inverse, I also get x. And that's what we'll look at in the next video.